or
Oh,
something. They're
amazing.
perfect. Some of the color is knitted in, some of it is, isn't that amazing? Oh, I found two of
It is
these. That was
amazing.
back in 1999 when I was traveling over there. Almost didn't get them out because the police officer, we were just driving around. I was there with my husband at the time and his daughter. And we didn't know the language. We didn't know what's going on. We had international driver's licenses, and the officer stopped us and he just kept showing the license and shrugged and just let us go. Um, but also, I have more of these. I have these two little ones, which are from Norway. These I bought in Norway at a little store called Sweden.
About an
They're about an
inch
inch long,
long.
And then these are special. These were given to me by a woman from Denmark. And I wrote the story of the women, a story about the woman who made these and developed a friendship with her daughter. And she gave these to me because her mother had made them with a little bit of a story. So what I did, I went through this thing where I learned Norwegian and I studied and I traveled to Norway. And one of my travels started going to Norway. And I had about 3 trips to Norway. I have some Nordic heritage and this is all pre-pandemic. But anyway, so I developed all these connections with people with Norwegian, I think Lauren Gilbertson at the Vesterheim Norwegian American Museum has sent me photos of her little mittens that she found. My friend Anna Moore Sundar, who is a fabulous scholar of Norwegian, many books. Oh, she'd be good for you to interview. She has written many books about knitting, specifically in Setesdal, Norway. And she's written the tome on this. So I got in touch with her and she sent me photos of 9 of these that she has, and from a Norwegian citizen and scholar, the story of what these are about. And it turns out that when a woman started knitting a pair of these, it was a little signal to her husband or her boyfriend that we need to make something small. In other words, it's time to have a baby. Who knew? And then it just went on to become a tourist thing, a cottage industry. So those are 2 things I'm working on right now. I think like there's more here, but I can't. That's the ones I can put my hands on. Yeah, the knitting, I've just finished going through quite a lot of those.
That's fabulous.
Anyway, having a lot of fun with that, just coming up with things and thinking, yeah, there's that. And of course, the pot holders, I've got a lot of my own.
Oh, yes.
And
Talk to us about
gosh,
the potholders. 'Cause I know that's a
oh, that
passion
is
of
so much
yours.
fun. I started collecting them because they were small and they were inexpensive, they were easy to collect. In between Loveland, where I worked, and Fort Collins, where I lived, there were like 5 huge flea market places along the road, and my car would just automatically turn off and I'd wander around. It was like a little mini mental vacation, but you'd be surprised how many things I found there that ended up being story. It's very touching. These things that end up being anonymous. If you remember that old book, Anonymous Was a Woman, these are mostly the work of the hands of women who did not think they were important enough to put their names on or to claim them. And potholders to me were like that. And I started realizing that I could tell the everyday history of American women with the potholders they were knitting. And so my fantasy is that I'm started on this. It hasn't gotten done yet, but to do a book called Hot Pot, I Feel You Not, which is something that's on one of the older embroidered pot holders. And then it's the history of American women in, I don't know, 50, 100 pot holders, something like that. But they take you back to the very beginning when they were first making them, beginning turn of the century. They were embroidering them, and then they were trying to make their plain little kitchens a little nicer into the 20s and 30s. And, um, it just kind of goes on from there to the crocheted ones and the yarn manufacturers coming in. There's a whole era of Jim Crow era potholders, and I'm sure you've seen these that people
Yeah.
thought were cute at the time, and of course now when you look at them, it's shocking, absolutely shocking. And Those I will donate to a special museum of the Jim Crow era. I think it's in Michigan. Once I get finished with that. But then it goes on to all the clever little crocheted potholders, at which time I realized there were two genders, male, female. That was it. Pants, skirts. That's it. People didn't have the words, and they didn't have the vocabulary. They didn't have words to talk about what people were really like, the true range of all the gender possibilities in life. They didn't have that. And there were, I don't know, women made a lot of things for bazaars, fundraising. Women raised money for schools and churches, tons of stuff. And they had fun with it. They gave them as gifts back in the 30s when there was no money. They'd make potholders and give them as gifts. And sometimes they made potholders. I found another subcategory of the gendered potholders, which were erotic potholders. They were, you lift up the little apron and the little flap, and you got little suggestive bits under there, which I think must have livened up quite a few bridal showers. Like, I know, who knew? Who knew? Potholders could be so interesting. And so I've got 700 of these things, and honestly, I can tell the history of kind of American women in their kitchen through these things. And it all goes to pieces in the 70s, and they used real big things and owls, and they lose interest. So women go off and do a lot of other things, have proper careers, and they're not so dependent on this. But we see that still coming back to be very important in just making things. It's still very important, but certainly it used to have a much larger social role than it does now. Yeah, I have this